Shalom Avracha, good afternoon, welcome to the 15-minute shiur. Just a brief note as we are set to commence yet another shiur. Anyone who does want to sponsor, sponsorship opportunities are always available. You can sponsor. Just check in with our office, 718-327-0500, extension 3, or office at dwightshul.com. You can sponsor any shiur, any 2 shiurim, any weekly shiurim, whatever you want. That's all out there. And Nevada, it's going for a good cause. As we know, Nisana Tokev Tshuva Tzfilu Tzedakah, Ma'avir Nesua Gezerah, twice a Mishlei, Perek Yud again, a Perek Yud Aleph, Tzedakah Tatzim Imoves, Shabbos Kufnun Zayin and Aleph, the whole Sigim of Amasun, Dav Yud, Tzedakah Tatzim Imoves, the Grod saves you from Moves, Sai, in this world, Sai, in the next world, Gavaldig gets Tzedakah, and giving Tzedakah to be Machazik, the Torah, and the Bate Knesiyas, and Bate and Roshas, here in the White Shul and beyond. It's a Gavaldig Yischus, what a great thing to take with you, going into the Yom Noroim. So anyone who does want to sponsor. Once we're on the topic of Chodesh Elul, and we're talking about things that one should do in Elul, we have to start with the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch and Simukuf Chavches, where he cites the Arizal and the Dorshei Rishumis, many Ramazim to Elul, Rashi Tevis. In the Sefer and Flows we Torasech over 20 instances, Rashi Tevis, Sefer Tevis, so much of Elul. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the Rav Shlomo Gansfried Zecher Tzadik Levracha cites a couple of them, and 3 that he cites are as follows. One is, of course, the most famous of the Moshe Hashem Perek Vapos Gimel Ani Ledodi V'Dodi Li, and then we have the Remez of Megillas Esther, Praktes Pasuk Chabeis, Ish the Reyeyo Dahainu Matonis Lavionim, O Matonis Lavionim, Mishloch Monas Ish the Reyeyo, Rashi Tevis Aleph Lamed, Umatonis Lavionim, Aleph Lamed, and then you have the Vav and the Lamed, and that spells Elo Rosh Tevis Yonim, talking about an Indian of Tzedakah. And then we have Omal Hashem Elokecha Es Levavcha V'Es Levav Zarecha, Pasuk in Yitzavim, this week's Parsha, a Parsha said Tshuva, according to Ramban, Perek Lamed Pasuk Vav, an Indian of Tshuva, therefore writes the Shlomo Gansfried. You have Elo, what's the Avod of Elo, getting a set for what we're going to recite in Unisana Tokev. Omal Hashem Elokecha Es Levavcha V'Es Levav Zarecha, Levav Chaviyes Levav, Rashi Tevis Elo, reference to Tshuva. Ish L'Reyehu Matonis Lavionim Elo, that's Tzedakah. And then, of course, Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's Tefillah, that's the Dveikus. Ayin Rosh Hashem Pinkas, Dav Kuf Beis and Hashem Tefillah, Aloshin Tefillah, Aloshin Naftuli, Anaftoli, Aloshin Dveikus, Aloshin of Eskarvas, Ayin Rashi, and Vayetze. So we have what? 3 Ramazim, putting them together. Utshuva, that's Umal Hashem Elokecha, Es Levav Zarecha, Es Levav, Elo Tshuva. And then we have Tzedakah, Ish L'Reyehu Matonis Lavionim, and then we have Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, the Rebbe to Tefillah. So we have to focus on all these 3 things. In addition, continues the Kitzur and Sif Gimel and Kuv Chav Ches. Anshei Ma'is Nogin Livdok B'Chodesh Hazeh Tefillah and Mezuza Shulhan. The minig, of course, is all throughout Klal Yisrael quite rampant minig, and that is we get our Tefillin and Mezuzahs checked. It's time to go ahead and make sure that our Ruchnius is in business and the Cheftzei Kedusha are in good working Ruchniistic order. Therefore, we get our Tefillin checked. V'chol sheyimtza sham bedek b'shar mitzvahs yisaknu. Anything that requires inspection, legabe all the Taig mitzvahs, this is a time to scrutinize our actions, make an honest reckoning, a cheshbon and nefesh, sincere and wholehearted cheshbon and nefesh, and make sure to mend and to rectify anything that requires a tikkun. So we get our tefillin checked, we get our mezuzah checked. Now tefillin, that already we know is one of the Zayim mitzvahs. Shkulas tefillin is that rocha me'aretz Yishem Hashem nikra lecha v'yorim imeka. Tefillin is one of the osos Mila Shabbos Tefillin. We can go on and on about Tefillin. Yetzias Hatzayim, you get that. So much about Tefillin. Mezuzahs, you got to check your mezuzahs. Now mezuzahs, of course, are a big thing. It's protection of the home. I remember years ago in Camp Simcha, we had a boy, unbelievable story. This boy had a terrible disease in one of his eyes, and he was losing eyesight completely in that eye. So he's from a traditional Sephardi family in Eretz Yisrael. So they went to a Sephardi Makubal, and the Sephardi Makubal said to this father, you got better check the mezuzah outside of his bedroom, and that's going to be the source of the tikkun. They got the mezuzah checked, and they discovered what? That in the mezuzah, one of the words was missing an ayin. That's the mezuzah outside this son's door, his bedroom door, and it was missing an eye, and he started losing one of his einayim, an ayin. He was losing eyesight. He got the mezuzah fixed. Baruch Hashem, with siyata d'shmai, his vision came back. He can't play games with the mezuzah. Again, we could talk about a lot of stories about mezuzah protecting. I'll just give you one other quick one. That Rabbi Goldberger writes in losing weight the Torah way. A little kuntrus about losing weight, and he starts with the story of a yeshiva bacher who was a healthy yeshiva bacher. All of a sudden one day, he found himself having an insatiable appetite. He couldn't go ahead and eat enough. He mamish unquenchable thirst and insatiable appetite, binge eating, and he couldn't stop. The ice cream, everything, 2 in the morning, he couldn't stop eating. He was gaining weight. He went doctor to doctor. Where's this coming from? Out of the middle of nowhere. He went all around to doctors, to nutritionists, and they couldn't figure out where in the world was this coming from. So where do you go? You go to Makubal. He went to a Makubal. Makubal said, go check your mezuzahs. And at the end of the day, you got to check the mezuzahs. He got his mezuzah checked. And when the pasuk says, v'yachalta v'savata, and his mezuzah, the sefer, accidentally, instead of v'savata, you will eat and be satisfied, he wrote, v'yachalta, v'yachalta. You will eat and you will eat some more. He got the mezuzah fixed, and from the very next morning, he was fine, b'seder gomer, got the mezuzah fixed. You can't play games with the mezuzah. It shields you, protection, shakai. On the outside, it's unbelievable shmira. But this afternoon, my good friends, I love you so much. I'm going to share with you a gorgeous Meshech Chochmah that highlights that a mezuzah is not just protection on the inside. A mezuzah doesn't only protect you on the inside, it protects people on the outside as well. Let's go to Gavaldige Meshech Chochmah, Ramei Simcha from the Vince, is the very last piece, and Meshech Chochmah Parshas Eikev. So you want to talk about getting your tefillin and mezuzahs checked. You want to hear how important and the power of what a mezuzah is all about? Listen to this, Ramei Simcha. Ramei Simcha, in his last piece, he's talking about the second Parsha Kriya Shema that appears, of course, in Parshas Eikev. And we have the Lashon Limata Mosem, this Samtim, and it's all what? The Lashon Rabim. However, when we get to the word at the end of that parsha, the second parsha Kriya Shema, Kabbalah so mitzvah chsaftem al mezuzos beisecha v'sharecha. Chsaftem Chazal understand it's a lashon yochid. It's not the lashon Rabim. Chsafta osam, based on the Gemara and Shabbos, it's understanding what the chasafta osam, and you will write osam, those words. You will write them al mezuzos beisecha v'sharecha, but it's ata avechasafta osam. So we have Gemara and Shabbos Kav Gimel and Beis. We darshan from the extra mem that it should be a ksiva tama ayin shabbos. Even though the Shagasari it's in Beis Tor Tamima, and others say it's learned from the chsaftim that's mentioned in the first parsha, Ramei Simcha understands it's coming from the one that's mentioned in Eikev in the second parsha Kriya Shema. Either way, it's lashon yachid. Why is chsaftim lashon yachid? Not only that, on the heels of that pasuk, juxtaposed to Chsaftem HaMezuzas Beisecha V'Sharecha, we go directly from there into what? Into Leman Yirbu Yemechem V'mei V'nechem Al Adama. If you do these mitzvahs, then what? Then you get a Riches Yamim. What Shaychus? And not only that, but if juxtaposed directly to Chsaftem, it seems to me that even though Leman Yirbu Yemechem Apashtus is going on that whole parsha, but so of course, it's a mamish on the heels placed directly alongside of Chsaftem to have a Riches Yamim. And let's not forget the Gamaldik Remez, Laman Yirbu Yemechem, Vimei V'nechem, Laman Yirbu Yemechem is Gematria 120. Shemizaycha to live on Mei V'Shem Shana. Without getting into Chaim Brisker, there's no Makor actually that says a Yid cannot live beyond 120. That's Moshe Rabbeinu, we live to 120, so the Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yochanan Matzaka, Hilos, okay. And nowhere do we see that you can't live beyond that. In Sufas Gershon, in Shmuel Ashkenazi, Alpha Basic Mishnah says so many Marmakamis you can live to beyond 120. But that's the Gavaldik Remes. In fact, we know until the Kapitel Tani and Pasuk Yud, Yemei Shinosenu Ba'im Shim Shana Zok Vilna Gon Yemei Shinosenu. What are Shanas when you have Yemei? Yemei is Yud Mem Yud Gematria 60. Moed Kontan Chachesam Nalid. If you live to 60 years old, then you had Shanim, because then you know that you mufka from Misas Kores. So when do you have Shinosenu? Zok Vilna Gon Yemei, then you know you have Shinosenu. Yemei Yud Mem Yud, Gematria 60, Yemuf Gavon Karis, you could call your years, Ubahem, but you can have people amongst them, Shimashona, that can live to 70, even beyond that, and then of course, Gavuris, you get to Shmonim, and then you want to get to one Misra, Yemecha Amole, you want to get to all the Yamim, and that is when you write out that word Mole, it gets to 120, many Gavaldi Garamazim, how do we want to get to 120? Sarichas Yomim, how do you get a Richas Yomim? What Shaychas? Zog the Meshach Chochma. Let's go to the Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Man Aleph, and the Gemara darshins Dem Yesh Ba Mezuza Achas Eino Nasis Irni Dachas and Parshas Rei. How we read the narrative of the rebellious, the wayward city. The majority of the inhabitants, 51% and above, are Ovid of Odazor. It's an idolatrous city. What do? We burn the whole thing down. Everything, and we destroy Yerni Dachas, the wayward city. Again, the Sig and Sanhedrin, the Hayav Lohiya, did it ever happen? Rabbi Yonasan, Akoponim, if there's one mezuzah, Eina Nasis, one mezuzah is Matzil. Zoktor Meir Simcha. He says his understanding of the Gemara is Kamosha Matzila Seir Medinadam, Kain Matzila Midin Shamayim, Sheishem Chelik Olam Haba. And not only if there's one mezuzah in town, in that city, in that Yerni Dachas, will it save the entire city and all the inhabitants contained therein. That we're not going to burn down, we're not going to destroy the entire city because of one single mezuzah. Zog the Meshach Chochma, it's not saving the human beings from getting destroyed in Olam Hazeh merely, it's also saving them from Olam Haba. They're going to get this schar in Olam Haba. Why? Because one Yid, one Ruvait Goldstein in town decided to put him a mezuzah. There's one mezuzah outside one door and he's matzil. You'll tell me anyway it's a Peladik Gemara and Sanhedrin Kufya Gimel, the one mezuzah saves the whole Yerni Dachas. Okay, the Eibishter doesn't want it to happen. We have the drasha, Lasas and Kein Lashem Lokechem. But with all their Avodah Zarah, they could still get all of Haba. Why? Because of one mitzvah that they didn't even do. But one Yid brought a mezuzah into town and put a mezuzah on his doorpost. He is matzil the entire city. Hein bi Olam Hazeh, hein li Olam Haba. Therefore, concludes Rabbi Simcha from Devinsk. Now we understand the smichas and why the Loshen Yochid to the Loshen Rabbi. Mochsavtam is vechasavta. Osam, you Loshen Yochid will write these words in Mezuza Veisech V'Shorchalaman Yibu Yemechem We're talking about to the Rabbi. Why the shift from Yochid to Rabbi? Zok Rabbi Simcha Lachein Kamashmalon Krab. Tim Yisrael Yochid Kosei Mezuza. The Kova Mezuza Spaso for just one regular poshet Yid. Reuven Goldstein sat down, wrote a mezuzah, put it on the outside of his house. He is matzil the rabbim midin adam and midin shamayim lachein kosev chsav tom loshen yochid. To tell us what you want to get to the man yirbu yemechem. Even if just a chasav to usam amazuzas meisecha, if just one portion of regular yid has sat down, followed this mitzvah hamazuzah, and put one kosher mezuzah on the outside of his house, then what the man yirbu yemechem rabbim yinotz lumi. He saves the whole album. So Rabbi side, you talk about Chodesh Olo checking the tefillin, and not the tefillin only, but also the mezuzahs. You got to get it checked twice in 7 years. What are you checking the mezuzah? Because you want your gezunt, you want the shmirah, you want the shakai, you want the protection, the metaphysical shield outside your home. What do we see from the Gemara and Sanhedrin in this room, Ramei Simcha Befrat? We see the mezuzah is not just protecting the inside, it's protecting the outside. It doesn't just protect the Baal Habayis and his family that dwells within. It can protect an entire city. An entire city, it can shield them and protect them not only in this world, but even Medina Shamayim and give them all Olam Haba. Look at the power of Mezuza. And with this Meshach Chochma in mind, let's go to that famous Hasidic Shavar. Reb Zevin and so many other Sfarim cite the Yeduadik Hasidic Shavar. We never compromise in halacha. What's going on over here when it comes to Mezuza? Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam, his grandson, the Zayda, the grandson, the Enikol. One sheet in the Rishonim is you place it horizontal, one says you place it vertical. What do? We tilt it. Again, we don't put it 45-degree angle, we just tilt it slightly in. Again, that's Minhag Ashkenazim. Sfarim, they put it straight. Minhag Ashkenazim, we tilt it slightly in. Chazon Ish says just a little bit slightly. What are we doing? Playing games? Machlokes Rashi ben Tam. Let's be machriya da halacha. What else at all? We have machlokes Rashi ben Tam the gabe tefillin. So what do? We wear Rashi tefillin. The girl said that's the Yikar Shita. You want Aaron Rabbeinu Tam, Simon Chasidim, and many others. Anshe Maisa put on a tefillin Rabbeinu Tam. Yeah, but what's going on? Mezuzah and one mitzvah. We compromise. Ella what? Shalom Bayis. What's a mezuzah all about? Shalom Bayis. I tell you, when you walk inside your house, it's got to be what? It's got to be looking right away at the mezuzah when you enter your home each and every day, and you look first and foremost at that mezuzah. You see it on the slant. You say, hey, wait a second. Not like Rashi, not like Rabbi Tam. Hello, what? We make a pshara b'nei and we make a compromise because you go into your house. Shalom Bayis. That's what a marriage is all about. It's got to be compromised. But based on this Rosh Chochmah, let's take the same lesson. You kiss the mezuzah on the way in, Rabbi side, but you also kissing on the way out. Why are you kissing it on the way out? The Feiner because the mezuzah is not just there to tell you about compromise and making shalom within the bias. As you enter the home, when you leave the home, and you go out into the rest of the world, and you're about to go out to the city, I'll look at you as a mezuzah. It's not just for you, it's for everybody else. It's giving everybody else a shmirah. You're matzel them. Look at that mezuzah, the compromise. You're going out for the day. You're going out late night Ma'ariv. You're walking out. Look at that mezuzah. Go out and make a shalom between kol yochid v'yochid, between every community, every family. It's not just for the lesson of the compromise when you enter your home. You will kiss and look at the mezuzah on the way out of the home, because like Ramei Simcha, it's matzo, not just the people mi b'fnim habayis, but mi chutz l'bayis ad kedei kach. You matzo them not only from olam hazeh punishments, you matzo them from you give them an olam haba. Look at the power of one simple mezuzah. Look at the power of one simple but 8 what? It's not so simple. Look at one mitzvah, chasavtam, you write one mezuzah, and look at what it could do to be matzel an entire city, a community, from irni dachas, hein b'olam hazeh, hein and olam haba. Think about the mezuzah when you walk into the home, when you leave the home. I never lose sight of this message. There was once a maskil, someone who had vibes of Askola, and he came to the Heilig Chasam Sefer, and he wanted the Gadol, the Pasuk Gadol, to give him smicha, and the Chasam Sefer smelled a little bit is off. That it seemed to be the person was just took a maskil. He wasn't muchar mezuzah to give him smicha. But what can he do? He says, you know what? Please leave the room, and when you come back in, then I'll think about the smicha. Let me think about it for a couple of minutes. If you can please walk outside and allow me a few minutes to think to myself. Sam Sefer watched him ever closely as he exited the room. As he re-entered a couple of minutes later, he says, I can't give you smicha. And you know why? Obviously, you're not an olachiyah, because I watched. And not only like the Mishnah Berurah brings, b'shem the Shulchan Acharizal, we know you're supposed to kiss the mezuzah with your right hand, with the amma, the middle finger is called the amma. You're supposed to take a middle finger. Obviously, you could use any fingers, but ideally the amma, place it on the mezuzah. But if you can't, like the Chazon Ish and others, right, if you're not going to kiss the mezuzah actively, at least to look at the mezuzah, to acknowledge the mezuzah. Sam Sefer says you walked out of the room, you didn't even look in the direction of the mezuzah. You came back in, and you didn't even look in the direction. That's a maskal. I'm not giving you smicha. Rabbi Sai, I can bet you that Sam Sefer didn't just look. And when he came back into the room, he wanted to see when he leaves the room, when you leave and when you come in, because that lesson of the shalom, of the compromise, and all that the mezuzah represents, that shmira, it's a shmira, heimi b'fnim, heimi b'chutz, never lose sight, the power, the potency of one single mitzvah deraisa, a little mezuzah. Look what it could do for olam hazeh, for olam haba, for so many people. Be machshavit, and yes, get it checked twice in every 7 years. Elul is the zman. Hamasugel lekach broch and atzloch. Have an awesome rest of the day ahead.